the first thing I want really you to talk about, Coach, is your coaching staff. And here's why. The first two games, the first 2 weeks, yes, you produced in the first half. Then you go in at halftime. And what the results coming out of halftime were eye-popping. Last week, 21 points. With week 1, 30-something points or 4 touchdowns in 13 minutes. The adjustments y'all make are just ridiculous. So what's happening in the locker room at halftime for y'all?
Well, I think the biggest thing is when you start the game, you do all this game planning all week, and then, there's a tendency sometimes you may not get exactly what you've prepared for just because if you've been explosive the week before, then you may see something a little bit different. So people give you a little bit different look. Last week I thought offensively, we had the drive, the first drive. We just don't connect on third down. If we connect, we probably score there. We had an opportunity to get a pick six. We didn't make that one. So now all of a sudden you're talking about 17-0 at halftime instead of 3-0. Well, of course, then people are like, oh no, what's going on? Because, we're not scoring, points at, an abundance. So I think when you go into halftime, I think at the end of the first half, you kind of find what you like. And then the game kind of settles in, the ebb and flow of the game. You kind of know defensively what you're going to get from them offensively from a first to third down situation. And then from an offensive perspective, hey, this is what they like to do versus, this formation or that formation. And then it's trying to get the ball to your playmakers.
All right, so you're on the road a lot this season. We know that. That in and of itself can be distracting. But this week, you got Peachtree TV coming in.
Yeah.
You got a jersey retirement of a Falcon. All these things happening. Big production. Do you worry at all about the focus of your guys?
I don't. I mean, it is what it is. I think the last thing I told our guys after we practiced this morning was, look, it's 8 o'clock kickoff, so it's 30 more minutes. But what that allows us to do is not to be rushed to get there. Mm-hmm. Rush to go through activation, rush to go through warm-up. So now we've got time. And just, look, our guys, we're better when our schedule gets messed up, I think. I don't know why. Maybe we have a little bit more sense of urgency or whatever it is. But, no, I think our guys will handle it well. I do.
So all 3 phases last week. You had Phillip Williams scoring on the punt return. Offense, lights out. Your defense. Defense is giving up 5 points a game. Defense is lights out. All 3 phases working together, but last week it really shined. Yeah. What does that say about team morale?
Well, it just says a lot about complementary football. When we call it we-fence. So you have offense, you have defense, and then together we form we-fence. And so we take a lot of pride in that. Coach Williams has done a really, really good job of taking the bull by the horns and, having incentive. Because I think we-fence is really personnel. You got to have the right personnel. Guys got to want to be on special teams. And we got to have a standard in our program that you can't start on offense and defense if you can't start on we-fence. And so that doesn't mean you will or have to, but we've been fortunate to make some plays and do some things. And it's not always about a kick return or a block punt, or it's about hidden yardage. It's about, hey, stealing some hidden yardage and making sure we get a positive transition from one side of the ball to the other.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about game 1 block field goal. It's clicking a little earlier this year, it seems. I was going through some things when I was writing at Game Day Central for our website, goredelephants.com. And, you've got your top 4 offensive producers are all first-year players or starters.
Yeah.
The way they are producing it just says a ton about the leadership, maybe. What do you see with your offense that is allowing them to produce so effectively so early?
Well, I think the neat thing has been when you think about, first of all, because I think offense starts with your quarterback, when it starts up front. Those are the things that you got to be consistent. And we've been able to consistently run the football. We've done a really good job protecting the passer. We had a couple of, things last week, but it's not, like for Kareem, I think the great thing about Kareem is playing within our offense, understanding what we're doing. And then it's about getting the ball in your playmakers' hands. It's not about calling plays. It's about calling players. And I think our guys have done a really good job of that. You look at a guy like Jeremiah, the first game he caught a bubble, and then all of a sudden he breaks it for a touchdown. Well, he gets called back. Well, then at the end of the game, he has a 65-yard touchdown. Mm-hmm. So we're explosive on the perimeter. I think, Melo's done a really good job of being patient in the run game and then having chance for some breakaway explosive runs. But, it's just about getting the ball in guys' hands and then putting them in situations where they can win their matchups.
Last time Gainesville played Westlake, 2005. Cam Newton was the quarterback, beat him in the state playoffs. Obviously, Gainesville's a lot different now. Westlake's a lot different now.
Yeah.
So tell us about the opponent. What are the Lions bringing?
Well, they're just very athletic. I mean, when you look at them offensively, on the perimeter, they got 2 receivers that can really go. One of them kind of reminds me of a guy, Coach George Pickens, a little bit. He's just a dynamic guy. He's hard to tackle, got really good ball skills. They're big up front. They got 2 backs. One of them's a little bit bigger. The other one's a little bit smaller. But once they find creases, they're going to be patient. And then if you don't run to the football and you're not gap sound defensively, you're going to have some issues. And quarterback can throw the ball, but he can hurt you with his legs if you're not in your rush lanes. Defensively for them, they're big up front. They play a lot of guys. They're an odd front team. They bring a lot of pressure. They put their guys on the back end on some islands. And so, we got to be able to win those matchups. And then on special teams, like their quarterbacks, their punters. So there's that element.
Oh, wow.
They're really athletic and fast. That means they run down really well on coverage. But we got to make them play discipline. That's what we've got to do. And then we've got to play discipline. I think last week, good, bad, indifferent, say whether they were penalties or not. We had 9 penalties, so they're 1 in the first half. We can't do that this week if we want to play well early.
I'm not going to say they weren't penalties. I am going to say there were some penalties not called on the other guys.
Right.
Okay, so finally, I'm all about the first time we ever talked 3 years ago, I asked you about your style, right? Your style gets a lot of comments, gets a lot of compliments, depending on if you're a Gainesville fan or not, right?
That's right.
I, for one, am complimentary, but there's something I've noticed. You have this chain you wear now, and I want to know the substance of it. What's the story behind the anchor?
Well, just because your life is tied to something, and then whatever you're anchored to. And for me, I'm anchored to my Lord and Savior, and so it's an anchor with the crucifixion on it. And so, I don't want to be anchored to being a coach. I want to be the best coach I can be. I want to be the best father for my children, the best husband for my wife, the best friend to the people that I'm around, and the best leader I can for our community. But at the end of the day, I'm not tied to that because that's what I do. This is who I am. And no matter what's going on, good, bad, indifferent, whatever circumstances I'm going through, I can hold true to know that that's my anchor. And that's what I hold on to, and that's what I live by.
Hey, listen, perfect segue to what you've become known for in interviews, your closing.
Yep.
Hit it.
Well, hey, God bless and go Big Red.